Office of Assemblymember Christy Smith, we have Ryan Valencia and Andrew Taban. Los Angeles County Fire Department, we of course just saw Chief Daryl Osby. Thank you for being with us. And Assistant Chief Vince Pena. From the LA County Sheriff's Department, Assistant Sheriff Robin Limon, Chief Dennis Neer, Commander Christopher Reed, of course our very own Captain Robert Lewis, and Lieutenant Juster Diaz. From the California Highway Patrol, Captain Ed Kersey and Officer Josh Greengard. Joining us from the LA County Chief Executive Office is the CEO herself, Sachi Hamai. Thank you for being with us. From the LA County Department of Mental Health, we have the Director, Jonathan Sharon. From Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, we have Director Mark Pastrella. And we have our LA County Department Director of Regional Planning, Amy Bodak. From the Office of Los Angeles District Attorney, Jackie Lacey, we have Terry Cody. And representing our local town councils, from the Agua Dulce Town Council, Don Henry, Castaic Area Town Council, Vice President Brad Lanfranco, and West Ranch Town Council President Dave Bossert. A round of applause for all of our dignitaries with us today. And some more housekeeping. We want to thank all of our sponsors who have helped put on today's event and be very supportive of the Chamber. So if you'll join me again, hold the applause. We'll run through these as well. I want to thank our title sponsor again this year, UCLA Health. Gold sponsors, Agua Dulce Airport, City of Santa Clarita, Five Point, the Highlands at Tesoro del Valle, North Lake, Pardee Homes, and Wells Fargo. Our silver sponsors, College of the Canyons, Henry Mayo Newhall Memorial Hospital, Learn for Life, Pool and Shaffery, Princess Cruises, The Signal, SOS Entertainment, and Westfield. Our bronze sponsors, Guaranteed Rate, LBW Insurance, Logix Federal Credit Union, Southern California Edison, Southern California Gas, Tapia Ranch, and Trammell Crow. Thank you all for being sponsors. We really appreciate all that you've done to support us here today. And lastly, of course, I want to thank our media sponsor, SCV TV, and our photography sponsor, Schlick Art. Thank you so much for helping us out as well. And just a little housekeeping note, you'll notice there's a sofa and a chair behind me. We're doing State of the County a little bit differently this year. Supervisor Barger is going to be joined and do a couple conversations after lunch with some of our county leaders that are here today on important topics that are important to all of us here in Santa Clarita and county-wide. So we will be removing the podium from the stage. Everyone has a clear shot of the conversation setting behind us for that. But before we get to that, I want to introduce Claudia Dunn Martinez from UCLA Health, who has a few words to share with us as our title sponsor. Claudia.
I'm short. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you to the Santa Clarita Chamber of Commerce, first of all, for this wonderful event every year. It gets bigger and better for all of us, for sure. UCLA Health is proud to yet again be the title sponsor for this event. For those of you who don't know me, John introduced me and I am the newly appointed area Marketing and Community Outreach Manager for the Department of Medicine at UCLA Health. And here with me today at our table, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Jeff Bornstein, the Regional Lead Physician at Santa Clarita, Porter Ranch, and Simi Valley, as well as Dr. Jane Daskalos, Dr. Omar Sahagan, Mr. Prital Patel, Ms. Monica Velascos, Ms. Loretta Graham, Ms. Nikki Bonner, and Ms. Gabby Rodriguez, all of whom proudly join me in representing UCLA Health here today. We thank all of you for embracing us in the community, a community where the businesses, nonprofits, educational institutions, government, and healthcare services are the backbone of the Santa Clarita Valley. For UCLA Health, it's a journey that began in 1995 with the first hematology-oncology practices located on the campus of Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital. With your support over the years, we were able to add primary and specialty care at nearby space on McBean Parkway, along with digestive diseases and interventional pain management, a specialty that has an important focus on getting patients off of opiates. Most recently, our obstetrics and gynecological practices, as well as the entertainment industry medical group, has been added to the Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital McBean Parkway corridor. And the hematology oncology has expanded in its relocation to our brand-new Turney Road facility that I think many of you have seen. UCLA Health on Turney Road offers extended after-hours and Saturday care. It's another home for primary and specialty care, including cardiology, endocrinology, neurosurgery, and internal medicine specialists who are dually board certified in pediatric medicine, just to name a few of the many specialties that we offer there. In particular, we are extremely proud of our state-of-the-art interventional radiology center at the Turney Road location, and I would like to again acknowledge our two physicians who are here that lead that practice here in Santa Clarita, Dr. Daskalos and Dr. Sahagan right here. But there's also more. UCLA Health and Southern California Orthopedic Institute, SCOE as many of you may know them, recently signed a strategic alliance to improve access and expand treatment options for patients. This alliance will complement our primary and specialty care services in the Santa Clarita Valley, and patients will be able to experience expanded treatment in high-quality orthopedic care closer to where they live and where they work. That being said, what has been achieved and what is on the horizon would be impossible without the support of all of you here today. And we couldn't be prouder of our relationship with the Chamber and our role in helping to build a healthy and vibrant Santa Clarita Valley. We at UCLA Health strongly support the supervisor and the partnerships she has developed during her tenure with the county. We are very excited to witness what more she will achieve, not just for the Santa Clarita Valley, but for the entire 5th District. Today, the supervisor will be discussing topics that are pertinent to UCLA Health, and we look forward to seeing the types of action the supervisor and the county will take to battle issues such as mental health. Once again, we appreciate all of you here and you're embracing us in the community, and we thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And I'd like to invite John back to the stage. Thank you.
Ed Masterson was giving me a few little tips for emceeing an event, and I told him I got it handled. But I thank you, Ed, very much for those tips. Ed's a great guy. I like to give him a little hard time. And thank you, Claudia, for your kind words, and we appreciate working with UCLA Health and being a great partner of the Chamber. So we appreciate that very much, and thank you again for being the title sponsor today. And I also just want to say, before we bring up Supervisor Barger, I think we all know, but I think I just want to say it once, is that we are so fortunate to have such a wonderful county supervisor representing us here in Santa Clarita. Supervisor Barger is smart, she is caring, she's compassionate, she's an advocate for business, she works hard to represent everyone and finding common ground. And that is so important in today's politics, and we are proud to have her as a partner and a representative here in Santa Clarita. So if you now indulge me, we have a short video we'd like you to share with you before we have the supervisor join us on stage. So please enjoy the video.
Even though we all have the same population, I would argue that the people that are present in the 5th District truly do represent all that's good, not only about LA County, but about the station. The years have gone by very quickly, but I feel like we've accomplished a lot. And I say we because it's not just about me. I've got a great team around me that helps me bring it across the finish line. You know, when I came a couple months ago, when I walked in today and saw how far it's come, it took my breath away. And we're here because this really is a celebration of what community can do. This was a public-private partnership. When you think about the name Bella Vita, it is about celebrating life together as a community. This senior center takes it to a whole nother level. It's about investing in the community.
People who are working hard to rebuild their lives did not have to go back to the streets. Instead, they get to stay on the path from homelessness to housing.
Magic Mountain has been absolutely incredible. They allow us once a year where they can pick out their own gift and run through the park and enjoy it. Really is a joy for me to watch. The infrastructure is really going to be the heart and soul of what takes place in Santa Clarita, and we are well on our way to building a strong infrastructure to meet the needs.
This is a great day. You're going to get a lot of money to fix the problem behind us. In our community, we talk a lot about the importance of building bridges. For me, it symbolizes the bridge the city and I have built together.
Our highest priority, of course, is your safety, and we're building a state-of-the-art facility and providing the deputies with the tools necessary to keep Santa Clarita one of the safest cities in the nation.
We found up all the entrance and flagged a bunch of stuff for removal by the crane.
We are actually reinforcing bad behavior because under 47, downgrading from a felony to a misdemeanor, there are no consequences to the actions taken. I have yet to meet a healthy addict that is actually a productive citizen in the community. This community recognizes that this is a growing epidemic, not only in the Santa Clarita Valley, but throughout the United States.
From world wars, Korea, Vietnam, through the recent fights in the global war on terror, we have felt the heartaches and held the hands of our fallen when their service members did not return home. Memorial Day is our nation's opportunity to show the families and communities of the fallen that our loved ones live on.
The best part of my job is going out and really celebrating successes. And one example is when I got to give the first pitch out at the Castaic Sports Center. I know how much the opening of this recreational facility means to our community, especially our youth who will now have a local skate park of their own. We're connecting our neighborhood skaters to an international sport. It's about giving back to the community. That's what government's supposed to do. We're supposed to listen, respond, and help. Is it on? Oh, it's on. Where is John Musell? Where were you talking from just now? Oh. Well, welcome. This is my third annual State of the County address, and I have to tell you, I try to keep it fresh each year,
And I will, for those of you that have been coming for a long time, I will not start with a joke. My former boss used to, and it left a lot of people offended, so I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. But before I go on, I'd like to first thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this extraordinary event together. But, you know, when you saw the video, I talk about it's just not about me, it's about my team. I have to acknowledge Nicole Vartanian. Where are you, Nicole? Nicole? Nicole has put a lot of work into this, and I don't like to think I'm needy, but she would probably tell you otherwise, getting this event ready. And also Stephanie English. Stephanie, my senior deputy out here. And I also want to thank the Hyatt for again hosting us. You all, your hospitality is very much appreciated, not only by myself, but I think by the entire community. It has been a busy year. As you saw up there on the video, we've had some incredible things happening up here in Santa Clarita. And I could not do it without my partners, the city of Santa Clarita, who really have made the first 3 years of me being supervisor up here incredible. So I want to thank the city of Santa Clarita. Now I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. 2020 is approaching, and I've decided I am going to run for my second term of supervisor. Yeah. I'm excited. Make no mistake, this is a job. But as you heard, I really do view this as public service. I don't think government is here to be your nanny. I think we're here to help, support, and do what we can to really address issues facing the community. And that is my pledge, once again, to make that happen. Working with fire, working with sheriff up here, working with the CHP, who are incredible partners as well. I want to thank you all. The 5th District is special. I like to say that the 5th District really is, arguably, in my biased opinion, the best district, because you don't have a one-size-fits-all. It's the largest, 2,900 square miles, same number of people, 2 million, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. What's right for the Antelope Valley is not going to mirror what's needed in Santa Clarita. When I go out to the East San Gabriel Valley, their issues are far different. It keeps me on my toes, but it also really helps me to be a better public servant to the residents of the 5th District. In Santa Clarita in particular, there are beautiful and different opportunities each day to show up for me and get involved. For example, the Senior Center. What a joy. What a joy it was, Peggy, to partner with you and with the community to bring that to life. And when I saw the look in the seniors' eyes as they walked in, and by the way, seniors, well, I'm almost a senior. Well, I am a senior, actually. But they are a lot more vibrant, a lot more active. So the senior centers of today are more about keeping them active in the community, hiking, going out on excursions to the museums. That senior center is what it is all about. And so I want to thank you, Peggy, for letting me come along on the ride, and Larry, but Peggy, really, Peggy. So today what I decided is I decided to pick topics that I felt were relevant to this area. And I'm really honored. We're going to have public works and planning issues first. We're going to talk to Amy Bowden and Mark Bodick, about some of the challenges up here and some of the opportunities up here in the Santa Clarita Valley as it relates to planning and ongoing projects and traffic concerns. I'm also invited Sachi Hamai, our CAO, and Dr. Jonathan Sharon, Department of Mental Health, to give a little overview in terms of what's going on with mental health, the homeless population, and then the fiscal health of the county and where your tax dollars are going. But before I get started, before we start serving lunch, we're going to have a break after I speak, and that is I want to announce a special award that I decided to do. With over 2 million residents in the district, there are countless individuals in our neighborhoods who have dedicated their time and talents to those around them. And up here in the Santa Clarita Valley, there is no shortage. I'm sure each and one of you at the table could nominate someone sitting next to you who's gone above and beyond to make a difference in this community. I've been looking for a way to acknowledge those in the community who have gone above and beyond. Today, I will be presenting the first ever Catherine Barger Commitment to Service Award, recognizing 5th District residents committed to doing good. My inaugural honoree is a gentleman who may fly under the radar, and his work doesn't get all the recognition it should. For over a decade, his heart has been committed to serving those most in need, women and children who have been victims of trafficking. For more than 12 years, this gentleman has worked to stop human trafficking and support survivors. He was previously a Department of Children and Family Services employee in the Santa Clarita Valley for 9 years, where he started local conferences to encourage and promote adoption and foster care. He has worked with numerous nonprofits, including Treasures and Zoe International, and in the most recent years has traveled to Haiti and other faith-based leaders to lend a hand to orphanages and provide trauma-informed training to communities. For the past 4 years, he has served as a chairman of the Santa Clarita Human Trafficking Task Force, which works to prevent human trafficking local, because we all know that human trafficking can occur anywhere. But he also wants to bring awareness to trafficking methods and how to avoid them. He also serves as a community as a pastor and as a licensed family therapist, providing emotional, personal, and spiritual support through a one-on-one peer support program called the Spiritual Care. Partnering with high schools and other nonprofit organizations, he speaks about other critical issues, including suicide, which unfortunately is on the rise amongst our youth, domestic violence, relationships, and parenting. He supports organizations that help those struggling to get enough food, like Children's Hunger Fund and Help the Children, and even started a program called Cakes for Kids, where members of his congregation at Valencia Hills Community Church bake birthday cakes for homeless and foster youth. I mean, come on. I think we can all kind of narrow it down to who it is, because it says now it's enough about the suspense, but I think you all know. I'm proud to introduce Dan Broyles as the inaugural recipient of the Catherine Barger Commitment to Service Award. Dan, would you please come up here? Wow, thank you so much. That's sweet of you. Yeah, you got me all teary. That was like, wow. Oh, look at her. Like we're looking over there. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this honor and this privilege. I've grown up in this town, and there's amazing people in this community. So I just feel privileged to serve along with so many amazing people. There are also people in this community who are hurting, so it's a privilege to come alongside them. And so thank you so much just for this honor.
Thank you. Now stay here. So part of recognizing this, on behalf of the county, in your name, we are going to provide $5,000 to Zoe International to recognize the work they do, and thank you. John? And I want to thank John and Ivan as well. While you're coming up, John said you take a while to get up those steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, and that was a very nice tribute to Zoe International. So as you know, lunch is being served, but I wanted to make a comment again about the centerpieces. The centerpieces are going to be auctioned and the proceeds are going to go to benefit Zoe International. So again, last year we were able to raise about $2,500 for the nonprofit we did last year. We want to match that this year. So we're going to come around the room at lunch and find those who are going to help us out. So hopefully you are feeling generous today to help support Supervisor Barger's efforts to raise funds for Zoe International. With that, please enjoy lunch, and we'll be back in a few moments. Thank you.
And we're going to have John Turner talk about mental health, but one of the biggest areas that is deep LA County is housing. And the question is, how do we identify opportunities to build, but also opportunities to mitigate as we build? And so I wanted to ask you, Amy, to kind of touch on some of the opportunities and some of the challenges we're facing up here, not only
In the Santa Clarita Valley, but we're going to talk about the Santa Clarita Valley, but I think it does mirror what's going on throughout the county.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And I want to thank the supervisor for allowing me to be here and talk to you. I'm relatively new to the county. I've been with the county for about 15 months. And I would not have come if it weren't for the progressiveness of the board. This board really is trying to focus on balancing economic development and environmental health, and that's what needs to happen. And so without the supervisor and without her colleagues, I would not have come to the county. It is my privilege to be here, and I just want to take a moment to introduce you to a pretty important concept that I hope will last throughout my tenure, however long that tenure may be. But it really is that development is a single line of business across the county. And it shouldn't matter whether you're a homeowner or a large-scale developer who you talk to in the county, because we should all be trying to get you from point A to point B. And to that end, it's frankly an honor for me to be here with Mark. When I was announced that I was going to be the next director, Mark actually reached out to me when I was still with my former employer and asked to meet with me. So I, booted up the 710 freeway to his offices in Alhambra and sat down with him, and Mark said, look, these two departments that we work with must work closely together. Is this your philosophy? And it was another one of those signs that I had done the right thing by accepting the job, was absolutely a single line of business for the county. It benefits you, it benefits the developer, but it also benefits the county in terms of additional housing, additional tax revenue, additional jobs. And so for me, the Santa Clarita Valley has so many opportunities. I look around this room and I look at our gold sponsors from Five Point to North Lake and the Highlands. I look at our bronze sponsors, Tapia. Those are all projects I've worked on in the last 15 months. And so you are surrounded by people who are providing new opportunities in the Santa Clarita Valley. You've got land. You've got the ability to have the correct zoning. You've got a willing, supportive constituency group, and you've got a willing and supportive governmental jurisdiction. So I think those are frankly the opportunities that we have here to see some additional growth. There are some constraints, and we'll probably talk about that. I'll leave traffic up to Mark. But some of those constraints are affordability everywhere, not just in this part, but across the entire county. And I really appreciate what the supervisor said. One size does not fit all. So affordability in the Santa Clarita Valley is very, very different than affordability in the San Gabriel Valley or in the South Bay. So we have to really reflect that as we're pushing policy towards the board for their consideration. And so how we treat the environment, how we treat affordable housing, and how we encourage additional job development in housing, I think the combination of those, I don't really call it an opportunity or a constraint. I just actually call it development.
Develop is not a bad word.
Development is not
Shock.
a bad word.
Mark, that's a good opportunity for you to talk about the challenges. I mean, I know that smart growth is a term that people use, and how do you mitigate the challenges and ensure smart growth without compromising the need for open space or other quality of life issues in communities?
Well, thank you, Supervisor, and thank you for having me here today. And Amy, thank you for your acknowledgement of our partnership. It's been really good, and it's the same with the rest of the county family, the departments that are here today, whether it's fire, sheriff, or regional planning. We are all here trying to create one line of service for the county unincorporated community, as well as engaging the city of Santa Clarita, obviously, as our partners in developing this community. I started the county 32 years ago, and for 2 years now, I've been appointed as the Director of Public Works. In those 32 years, much of my time was spent looking at this area. I started out drawing maps for development in the area, working with some of the engineering groups in the room and some of the developers in the room planning out what essentially became the master plan community of Santa Clarita. And ultimately, now we have 5 points rolling. So it's just such an interesting time. And I'm so excited, Supervisor, to be the Director of Public Works at this time for the very reason that the question you asked me. There are some serious challenges for sure in the area with respect to natural resource management, what's happening with our no longer an anomaly, but very severe all hazard events that are happening with a frequency that frankly we didn't plan for in the early days. 100 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, we weren't thinking about the events that are occurring with respect to our weather, climate, and what's happening with this burn and flood cycle. But what's great about that is with all those challenges, we have this incredible opportunity at this time. We're actually rebuilding the valley in a way and recommitting to the infrastructure of the valley. And so when we talk about smart growth, we have to pay attention to the infrastructure of an area first and foremost. And I think we've learned that lesson through the years in LA County. You see some of the areas that weren't as well planned or do not have the infrastructure to support the growth that's going on. So what Supervisor has been doing and leading the way with the board in this area is making huge investments and commitments to not only our local infrastructure, but our regional infrastructure, in particular transportation. We are making really big investments in the 5 freeway corridor, if you will, in the 14 area, looking at how we can tie into the metro system. On a water level, we're making and taking the position that all water is good water. So whether it's imported, reclaimed, or that falls on the ground here and gets in the ground, our local stormwater, we're looking to make investments throughout the communities regionally on creating a consistent and reliable water supply that's safe and clean for the communities and for our children. And you can see some of the investments that are going on right now in that arena. I talked about transportation. The other part is always about protection. We want to protect the communities that we serve. We want to do that in partnership with the cities that live within the county. And I think we've done a pretty good job, a real good job with my partners from fire and sheriff again, not only responding, but preparing for the hazards I spoke to. And we're doing the same with the development community, and we're asking you to invest in a resilient and prepared system for the community's protection. So it's really about protecting and preserving and connecting people across the valley here, and in making investments that are not in a single place, but across the valley, connecting the valley as one area. So that's kind of it.
Well, and I just want to follow up on that. Next week, Mark Pastrella is going to be with the board in Washington, D.C. And for those of you that have been following the news, the infrastructure bill is moving forward very fast. And LA County is in a position to bring a lot of new money into LA County, both for water, for transportation, and the fact that we were one of the only two, Santa Clarita was one of the only 2 areas in the state of California to receive the federal grant last year for the choke point on the 5 is because we were ready. We had the ask ready to go, and so when they were ready to award, we were at the top of the list. And so I'm confident, given where we are right now as it relates to identifying what needs to be done, we are going to be bringing a lot more federal dollars here to build up on the infrastructure. So I'm very excited. And when we talk traffic, for those of you who don't know, I hate traffic more than anything in the whole world. Yeah, no, I honestly do. And so when I started to get emails during the holidays, Thanksgiving, from people telling me it took them about 2 hours to go 1 mile, you can imagine the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And it highlighted an issue up here that I've known about, but we have to be more aggressive on, and that is the issues relates to Castaic and the old road. I brought in a motion, for those who don't know what a motion is, on any given Tuesday, a board member can bring something in asking for departments to react, respond, take care of, fix, make it go away. And in this case, I recognize that this is not going to be a make it go away. This is going to be a long-term need to address the problem. So I brought Public Works, Fire, because it impacts first responders, Sheriff, Regional Planning, together on a task force to talk about how we can mitigate and do backup. In particular, looking at the strategy for the old road, because if the 5 is closed down, the old road really is the only way to and from. And Waze, in its infinite wisdom, had people going into dead-end streets, which I'm sure caused some problems as well for neighborhoods. But Mark, I want you to talk about some of the projects that have come out of the task force, but also that we're working on as it relates to traffic moving forward.
Okay, Supervisor. And You were too humble there. Supervisor Barger, she secured the federal funding for the Choke Point project, the infra grant. There's no. I have probably in my whole time in the county never seen a supervisor so invested in infrastructure as a thing. Infrastructure just isn't sexy to people, But this supervisor understands how important that is to the lives, the quality of life, and to the protection of lives here in this area. And you hear Supervisor talking about this old road. We all know, everybody in the room knows this old road's been this project. I'm looking at Mark Seekand over there and other people. We know that this road's got to get put through. It's got to be made as a reliable relief to the 5 freeway. It's part of the infrastructure package that we asked for, and our funding is solid to get that through. There's much for us to do to focus on that. And so one of the symptoms that we identify when we don't have a good road as a relief is we have this situation on the 5, and it's just a nightmare. You all are like me, first of all, night for me, a supervisor calls me and tells me what happened on the 5. I'm like, oh my God. She loves to do that to me. So I says, she likes to catch things before I catch them. And I'm prideful to know about it before she knows. We always racing each other. So, sent a note over, made a motion, and we went to work with a work group that includes the CHP, sheriff, fire, as well as regional planning, and the city of Santa Clarita, representatives from there, to look at what can be done. And it's a matter of just getting people moving, and that's what Supervisor did. She got us moving and thinking about it. And in fact, as I mentioned, we are investing in the old road improvements and laying out what's going to take. It's a longer-term project, but getting that road, number one on our list is to get that road, service road and major artillery through the area to be completed in a world-class level that's serving the traffic loading that we know is already occurring there, but also serves to provide for the relief. We went to Town on Ways and got heavy-handed with them, and they made a deal with us to take our data. We then, you might have heard this from the city of LA today, but we were before them. We made an agreement with Waze that they could have our open data about where the traffic is, but in turn, they needed to start limiting where they're moving people through your community.
That deserves a round of applause because they come through my neighborhood. They come speeding down the road, yeah.
That's a private-public partnership right there. So they're making something out of it, and we're getting something as well. We're keeping your streets and local streets safe, and we're not running people through your streets when we have a problem. We're also coordinating, again, at a much higher level with CHP and other first responders when the event happens, particularly Caltrans, so they don't make decisions about where to take people off the freeway without coordinating with us. And that's another major issue when a fire occurs or any other event. We are doing on-freeway turnaround is one of the things. We have alternate routes that have been identified during an event right now, and we're preparing traffic signalization. So what will happen there is when we take you off the highway in the event of the 5 and we're moving you through, say, like the old road or other areas like that, we're setting it up so we can synchronize the lights and keep the traffic moving through, remotely synchronizing those lights so we can move people through the valley, north and south and east and west. And it's a big investment, and it goes beyond supervisors as a lead in it, but also we're trying to do the same thing in the valley as well, synchronized signalization throughout the valley so that we can use those major highways as another alternate route. And then, of course, the other thing, and it's been great, and Supervisor mentioned it earlier, is alignment of law enforcement resources. The CHP is a major partner of the County of Los Angeles and one of my major strategic relations, as well as the sheriff. And, sometimes it's just talking to each other and getting our data to talk to each other. And you know that in that staff and in our staff, people want to do the right thing and they want to create, and supervisors inspiring us to basically collaborate. So you see Amy and I collaborating, you see the other agencies collaborating, basically talking to them, what happened up there, how can I help? And activating together in a joint way, in joint incident, makes all the difference. And many times, and actually, the scary part is, it saves lives. We don't know how many lives we've saved by working jointly together, but we know for sure lives have been saved by our actions working together and informing essentially the public how to move through an area that isn't normal to them. And then having it set up that they're used to that's what's going to happen. So I want to applaud law enforcement, Amy's staff, and others who have been working with this supervisor on this issue.
Okay, well, thank you, Mark. And, so we talked about some of the projects. I mean, I mentioned, and it was in the video, the bridge that we joint partnered with the city of Santa Clarita on Newhall Ranch Road. These are projects that are supporting the growth in the valley. we talked about mitigation. There are some projects coming down the line and future growth. Would you touch on that a little bit, Amy?
Happy to, yeah. So, of course, right down the road is Five Points Mission Village. If you haven't noticed what's going on, I don't know where you've been. I am so thrilled to see that project moving forward. I remember reading about it 20 years ago and wanting to work on it 20 years ago. And then, it made its way through many, many lawsuits and a couple of foreclosures and bankruptcies, and now I'm working on it. So that is obviously a very significant project for the county and also for this area. But there are others, as I mentioned in the room, that have been approved by the board and given their blessing by the board in this past year that will be moving forward. And part of that single line of development concept is once they're done with regional planning, they go over to Public Works. And so keeping that line of communication open and allowing that developer to move forward as seamlessly as possible between the two agencies is critically important. And so we've got the Highlands project that's moving forward. That's the Tesoro project. You might know it as the second phase of Tesoro. Tapia is in the works, but is not yet ready for the supervisor's prime time. North Lake, I should say, just also got approved or very recently. And then there's a number of other projects. Spring Canyon recently came forward, and I think that one was really interesting because it did pick up on some of the concepts of environmental sustainability, frankly, brought to you by the community and by the supervisor. And so I think they in particular deserve recognition for being responsive to current needs that are in the area. And so there's probably another dozen more projects that are not yet quite ready for prime time at the Board of Supervisors that they will be seeing in the next year. We're happy to come and talk to town councils and to the city of Santa Clarita and talk to you about what those pending projects are. But more importantly, you should know that we're talking to these folks as well to make sure that that infrastructure is in place to meet those current and future needs.
And I just want to mention Lions Canyon Ranch, which is open
Lions
space.
Canyon, yes.
I feel it's important to have a balance. And open space is something that I know for me, for my mental state, hiking is my way of kind of getting away from it all. So rest assured, open space is always included and looked at as it relates to the projects moving forward. As is public safety. We're building a new fire station. We've got a new sheriff station going up. We're looking at satellite sheriff station moving out. So we're trying to balance it all. One thing that I want to touch on, how are we doing on time, John Misala? Okay, is something that I drive up here quite a bit, and I noticed on the 14 freeway a lot of dump trucks. And for those of you who don't know, we had an illegal dumping problem in Browns Canyon over in Ventura County, and we hired outside counsel and, for lack of a better term, nailed the guy that was doing it. And he is now, has a cease and disorder to no longer do the illegal dumping, but he's also going to have to spend a lot of money to fix what he's done in the canyon. And I've noticed in our office an uptick in the number of calls regarding illegal dumping. And so I just want you all to talk about the increased enforcement, because I know that I make a lot of calls and you all have been incredibly responsive. Your staff has been fantastic. On weekends, I get emails when I email them regarding some illegal dumping issues going on. But talk about that and education for residents, because a lot of residents don't realize that they are having illegal dumping done on their property, and then additional resources that are available. I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll actually start because in response to this and some other special projects that we're having, we actually created a special projects unit within my department, and illegal dumping in the AV and in Santa Clarita Valley is actually within this new section. It is a 24/7 hour operation, and I did have the privilege of going on a field trip with Chris Perry to Browns Canyon, and no joke, within a half an hour, we saw about 55 dump trucks that were just dumping in the canyon illegally, uncertified fill. It was insane, and that was literally within a half an hour. But there are a lot of unsuspecting property owners who think that it's not an issue, or they're completely unaware that this is going on. And so for us, getting the email messages, from the town councils telling us that something's going on is really our first step in order to try to do some preventive measures. But we do have administrative and legal tools within our toolbox that we are going to start using against those property owners, whether they know it or not. And we do have the ability to start citing with monetary fines that can start to be very expensive. And so we're going to avail ourselves to those new tools that we have had in the toolbox but have never really used, because it's quite serious for us to do that. I know, Mark, you've got quite a team on this as well.
We do. The building, as a building official for the County of Los Angeles, we have a unit that does enforcement, rehab enforcement, and they've got some neat tools that are going on. Something that you may not be aware of, it's a pretty neat tool, and that everyone in the community should know about, is this Public Works app called The Works, which is available on iTunes and any other place you get apps. And The Works, if you look it up, is a way to take a picture of somebody doing something illegal like dumping or stealing water. We've had that one before up here. And or take the site picture and turn in something you've seen, whether it's graffiti, trash dumping, or debris, as we've been seeing locally. So again, if you want to look up a really neat app that we've created for the community, it's called The Works, and it's a way for us to get the right persons focused on the issue within 24 hours. The other thing is we have an 800 number. We have always had this 1-800-675-HELP, and it's our enforcement. It's actually our 24/7 helpline at Public Works, and it can be used for any emergency you might have in the area. We will coordinate with the city if it becomes a city jurisdictional issue. Illegal dumping has been a long time issue, and it comes and goes with construction. And there's a lot of development people in the room now who know, and contractors in the room that know, that, and I know these are all the responsible contractors in the room here, and know that as we are also trying to reduce the amount of material going to landfills, we're getting a squeeze that people don't want to pay the price to go to the landfill, and so they're going out. And most of what we're finding with this dumping is it's coming from other places outside of Santa Clarita Valley.
Right.
It's coming from the greater Los Angeles Valley.
Coming from the 5 up to 14.
coming
I'm
to
going to
5
start
up.
stopping the trucks along the way. Is that okay,
So-
CHP?
So one of the things we are doing is we're tracking source, and that's a long journey, but we're looking to track source of the material to then hold those project sites responsible.
Yeah.
So that's
We're going to
another
wind it down, but just an
Okay.
example is we're working with Metro, because we know that Metro's got a lot of projects downtown where they are taking a lot of the materials that they're excavating and moving them out here. So we're going to be following it even on projects within government. But I want to thank you both. Our time is over now. We're going to bring up my psychiatrist, Dr. Sharon.
We have a couch.
Yeah, we have a couch. Thank you very much. I appreciate you both being here.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mark. Great insights. We now like to welcome to the stage Dr. Jonathan Sharon from LA County Department of Mental Health and Los Angeles County Chief Executive Officer Sachi Hamai as they discuss mental health issues here in LA County.
Thank you. Have a seat. You know, I was joking about him being my psychiatrist. That's how rumors start. So now I'm probably going to read about that in the paper tomorrow. But I want to thank you both. As many of you know, I grew up in the county handling health and social services. So my heart really is especially with mental health. With the increase in homelessness and the increase in people with mental illness really being displayed on the streets, I wanted to touch base on this. And Sachi Hamai is our Chief Executive Officer, and all the Measure H dollars, which are our homeless dollars, are under her jurisdiction within the CEO's office. And it's about coordinating together. One of the issues I've learned, Dr. Sharon, is that, my first goal was to get people off the street that are mentally ill. And what I realized is there are no beds. I mean, the beds that are there are already stretched for those that have already been brought in. And so I realized that we need to do more as it relates to mental health beds. How do you think LA County is doing on that? And you can be honest.
Yeah, well, I will be honest. And the first thing that I'll be honest about is that I'm on the couch.
Yeah.
No, but when it comes, I mean, I seriously, those folks who know Supervisor Barger understand her commitment to these issues. And working for you as one of my bosses and recognizing that the major initiatives around mental health and mental illness track back to stuff that you know about and are working on it says it all. So I thank you for that. When it comes to issues of individuals who are homeless that have serious mental illness, we all know every day that this is a massive issue. And one of the problems that faces us is actually engaging people in treatment. And the last time I was here last year, we talked about an effort in Sacramento to look at involuntary treatment. And I'll say that we didn't succeed last year, but with Supervisor Barger's support, we're having actually a statewide audit of every aspect of involuntary treatment around mental health so we can get it right, because we don't have it right. Now, in addition to having to improve our ability to engage people, we need more treatment opportunities, and we need more places for people to get intensive care. And right now, really I look at three major issues. The first one is we're not right-sized. We have a decent number of what we would call acute care beds, but we don't have nearly enough longer-term, what many people would call subacute beds. That's a huge problem because people need not just a week in a hospital or 3 days in a hospital, they need time to really stabilize. And then they need to be connected up with the other resources that will actually help them become stable longer term. So right-sizing the network. The second thing is the fact that we have all of these different hospital systems and they're not connected. So we have people bouncing around these different hospitals. We're not using our resource efficiently. But the biggest issue is our capacity. Right? You want it to be matched to the need, and you want it to all be coordinated, but you need enough capacity. And one of the things that we're working on very aggressively with the state and the federal government is the thing called the IMD exclusion waiver. There were some well-intended actions from folks decades and decades ago to make it illegal to have people long-term in larger facilities. And what that translates into is that we don't have ongoing resource streams to fund what I was calling before subacute hospital beds. And when we get that changed, because we're going to, and we'll be in DC next week pushing for it, that will allow us to expand our capacity and provide the type of care that's needed by the individual and that promotes public safety across Los Angeles County.
And I'm glad you said that because for those in the room, don't think it impacts you, it does. Public safety on any given day will come in contact with someone who displays some sort of mental illness or domestic violence. And if at some point they determine that this person needs to be hospitalized, it takes them out of service. They have to go to all of you. It could be up to 6-8 hours that you've got law enforcement that's taken off the street and is caring for an individual in one of our emergency rooms. So this impacts each and every one of you in the room in ways that you do not know. And when we talk about that, one of the areas when I was first elected was talking about mental evaluation teams. And mental evaluation teams pair a psychosocial worker with law enforcement because truthfully, law enforcement is not well equipped to deal with the mental health side of what is going on when they come in contact with someone who's displaying that behavior. And what we found is that arrest went down to, I think, a little less than 1% when a mental evaluation team was put into play. Again, that impacts each and every one of you in the room because as taxpayers, you should be concerned that our jails are the largest mental health institution hospital, at least in the state, if not the nation. And many of those people in there who have family that know that their mental illness is what caused them to commit the crime in many cases, it is not the right place for them to be. So I want to talk about diverting those in crisis, John, Dr. Sharon, through the mental evaluation team if we don't hospitalize them, and how are we going about doing that as it relates to crisis from jail to treatment?
Yeah, this is a big deal. And the last comments are relevant here because if we had a lot more inventory of hospital, we would be able to take certain people off the street and get them long-term care. So that's an issue. But we, I think, as a county, are really leading the whole country in terms of the idea of the co-response teams. We partner with the sheriff big time, and we also partner with other law enforcement entities with the cities. We currently have, I believe, around 120 co-response teams. We're looking to get that number up to about 150 in coming years, specifically so that we can engage people who are in the streets, who are
spaces,
in need
and he was
of
getting
care
clean
and of
signal out of
treatment,
it.
to divert them from going into the jail, but also just frankly to get them properly assessed and to get them connected up with treatment. We had 15,000 co-response events last year. And as you say, the percentage of cases that get properly diverted is through the roof. It's like 99% of those cases. So we look at this as a big part of our overall effort. And in addition, we're building and expanding our urgent care center capacity. Urgent care centers really are places for individuals to go when they have a crisis, instead of having them go to an emergency department and in some cases getting admitted into a hospital when they don't need that, when they need to be plugged back into the community or perhaps at home and with care. And again, to stabilize over a short period of time. And I believe we are building a new urgent care up north a bit.
We are building an urgent care for it's a mental health urgent care center. So it's urgent care not for broken bone, it's urgent care for someone who may be broken in spirit. But up in the Antelope Valley, we're doing it at all of you.
Yes, we are. We are. The other thing that we're doing is we're building a significant number of what are called crisis residential beds, which really are residential beds for individuals who are in crisis to allow them to stabilize over weeks, up to a month, during which time we can kind of figure out how to plug them into the system. So these are major investments. Another thing that we're pushing, I'll just make a quick remark legislatively, is to say that these urgent care centers are not only available to individuals for 24 hours. And 24 hours is not enough time. So we're pushing to get legislative changes so that we can actually get resource for up to 72 hours to use that urgent care and triage someone properly, which in many cases will include going to longer-term crisis residential.
Right. I mean, not to get in the weeds, but for urgent care, you can only stay in the urgent care center for
23.59.
Otherwise, it's considered a hospital. So that's an important piece of legislation. So, Sachi, I mean, all roads lead back to this individual. When we on the board have an idea, we look to her to start printing the money and find out a way to make it happen. While I work, am proud to work with the Sheriff's Department as it relates to the mental health evaluation team, I look to SATCHI to ensure that the funding is there because their resources are spread thin, and this is an expansion on an existing program. SATCHI, how do you think we're doing on increasing the teams?
So right now, as John indicated, for just the unincorporated areas, we're at 33 teams, and that is 24/7, round-the-clock service in our unincorporated areas. We are hoping to get that to a number of 60. The reason you would always divide by 3 because there's 3 shifts that the sheriff runs, and we put our mental health individuals with the shifts. So again, our goal is to get to 60. But John also touched upon an innovative idea that came about last year, and that was thanks to Supervisor Barger, that we also wanted to get out to our cities and really do partnerships. So overall, we have about 80, it's in the neighborhood of 87 or so teams that are in 39 of our cities that we provide mental health services that teams up with law enforcement. I know for the Sheriff's Department, we've been working with them quite a bit in terms of the numbers and statistics of how many individuals they've picked up, and just individuals that have come through and been brought to downtown Los Angeles for intake. We have actually diverted about 3,000 individuals last year, so I think that it really has been successful.
And again, I try to bring it into context for the taxpayers as well, because when the sheriff or law enforcement, and we've teamed with police stations or police departments like Covina and put psych social worker with them. But when you get the use of force down, because the sheriffs don't have to engage with that individual, It's both the right thing ethically to do, but from a financial standpoint, it saves the county a lot of money in lawsuits because inevitably a lawsuit is filed. So I want to thank you for supporting the growth of the mental evaluation team. It really is a benefit to everybody. But let's talk about Measure H. Measure H is that quarter-cent sales tax that you all complain about when you get your receipt and you wonder where in the heck is all your taxes going. And I want to tell you, because this is something that we've been very focused on being as transparent as possible to the people that are paying into this. And one of the ways is to make sure that the communities, the cities, Santa Clarita, the unincorporated areas are getting their fair share of Measure H. Do you want to talk about the successes? I mean, I know almost 50% of the homeless, we've had a growth, about 50% of those coming in right now are homeless for the first time. And the issue is loss of employment. But there's also a circle back to cost of housing. You want to talk about, I know I did a homeless employment and innovation fund, which is working with the United Way to put together and pair better paying jobs for individuals that are without a job and really be more aggressive in getting them back into the workforce. But Sachi, how do you think we are doing with Measure H? And why don't you let people know some of the things that we're up to?
So Measure H, as the supervisor indicated, I think in our first 18 months, we have housed over 23,000 individuals into some kind of interim, bridge, or crisis housing.
Yeah, that is
absolutely something to talk about. We've housed another 12,000 individuals into permanent housing. And so I think we are seeing successes from Measure H. But there are certainly a lot of challenges ahead of us. Some of the other small innovations that, like Supervisor Barger indicated, the Employment Innovation Fund, this is a new one that will come about starting in July, where we are teaming up with United Way. We are actually putting $1 million into a fund, and what we are trying to do is have United Way pair up with either providers or job service centers that have proven a successful track in getting individuals into employment. We are also using some of the money for stipends if individuals go into vocational training so that they have daily stipends and that they could get placed into further job employment areas. And so I think that it's really innovative, and we'll see over this next year how it goes, but I'm excited. I think that it's another way of trying to get individuals who are homeless back into employment and then stabilized.
And it's also putting our money where our mouth is in terms of working with the private sector for those that are willing to employ some of these individuals to help them with a stipend to offset the cost. So it's a win-win. So if you have any interest in that, feel free to reach out to Stephanie and she'll connect you with our office downtown and we'll figure that all out. So in closing, Sachi, fiscal health for the county. We got a AAA credit rating, and we got a AAA credit rating because one of the things that I keep
Not
preaching.
quite AAA.
Oh.
AA plus.
Okay, AA plus. That's darn good.
It is darn good.
But one of the things that I've always preached, and I will continue to, and I sound like broke record, is rainy day fund. Just because you've got money in the bank doesn't mean you spend it. And just because we have money in the coffers for the county doesn't mean we have to spend every nickel of it each year. So we've been setting aside in the rainy day fund. What else are we doing to make sure that the fiscal integrity and health of the county stays in place?
So just to back up a little bit, just very quickly about myself. I've been here for a little over 30 years in the county, and I kind of came up through the county with the supervisor. And so clearly, I think she kind of understands me. I understand the supervisor's fiscal prudence, and it's been helpful in this role as the CEO. We both lived through when the county was at a time of almost bankruptcy, which was in the late 80s. And so we know the hard times and we know the importance of putting money aside. With that being said, as the supervisor indicated, we are almost at a AAA status, although because we have a hospital system, we will never be at AAA. The highest that we could be at is AA+. So we are there with two of our rating agencies. This year, we are going for our third credit increase since 2014, since I've been in this position. And if we get that increase, which I think we will be at the highest credit rating that the county has ever held.
Yeah.
And I will say, why is that important? Because when we want to do infrastructure, when we want to build things, when we want to borrow money, we could get a better rate on interest. We are able to do more with our dollars, and particularly I think when we go into the downturn and putting money aside into our rainy day fund, we are a little bit over 80%. We're on a plan that will get us there in the next 3 years. With that being said, I think some of the other things that we have been trying to address, in which actually the rating agencies have really recognized, is that we have unfunded liabilities similar to the cities and municipalities. On the pension side, we're good. We're about 81% funded, but that still means we're about $13 billion short. On our OPEB, which is other pension employee benefits, and that just means our retiree health, we're about $25 billion short. When I became the CEO, we were about $27 billion. We've brought that down in the last 4.5 years to $25 billion. Those are the things that we have already established funding plans for. But certainly, I think when we go through our budget cycle, and thankfully the supervisors last week adopted our budget, which I'm really happy about. But when departments come and they ask for additional resources, they all know I protect the general fund dollars like a hawk, and it's usually first no, and then they're all kind of laughing because they know this to be true. I mean, all of your dollars, the locally generated dollars, are the most important things, the most important resource that the county has, because that is the money that we could use as discretionary money. So
and discretionary is like public safety. The sheriff would be considered discretionary. I would argue they're vital, but...
Absolutely. And so when departments come, they really have to put on a good justification to get any of those dollars. And again, we protect it like a hawk. But thankfully, the supervisors adopted the budget. We're at a $32.5 billion, and I did say billion. $32.5 billion budget right now will go into the final adopt at the end of June. We're just shy of 112,000 employees, so we have grown a tad in the last 5 years, not much, but a small amount of growth. So overall, I think our fiscal health is stable, and we continue to provide services, I believe, at a very, very high level.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Sharon. I want to thank Sachi Hamayev. And I did grow up in the county. We both started together, and who would have thunk that you'd be the CEO and I'd be a supervisor?
Absolutely.
But I, again, want to thank each and every one of you for honoring me by being here today. It truly is an honor to represent this neck of the woods. I don't take it for granted, and I want you all to know that our door is always open. We are not perfect. We always are looking to fine-tune. So please always keep communication open. I can only fix what I know. And if you don't tell me and it's broken, then shame on all of us. So with that, and I want to thank you again, John. I want to thank the chamber, and I want to thank all my county family who came up here to help make this a success.
So obviously, we have a fantastic county supervisor in Catherine Barger who understands, don't go anywhere, supervisor, who understands the details of the issues but doesn't lose sight of the big picture, which is so important for all of us here in Santa Clarita. And she has a great team to back her up. If the supervisor staff could wave and say hello to everyone. I know you're all spread out of the room. Thank you for all that you do for the supervisor. And where's Anna? Anna's the chief of staff. Where's Anna? There she is. So a couple quick housekeeping notes. We did really well in the centerpieces. We think we've raised about $2,000 today. So thank you for everybody who helped out with that. If you grab a centerpiece, take your card out to the back on your way out the door before you grab a bag from the supervisor and pay Peter Ward in the back. He'll be able to take the funds from you and then come back, grab the centerpiece, and you're off to the races. And then thank you again to John Patterson at the Highlands at Tesoro for matching dollar for dollar what we're going to do today. Thank you again for that. And Supervisor, thank you for being here today. And we had a gift. We put together this great succulent bowl for you to take with you for your office. So thank you for being here as always. And
I'm the only person that can kill a cactus, so thank you. And I promise I'll talk to it, I'll do whatever it takes to keep this one alive.
You're amazing, thank you. And with that, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much.